today we're going to be doing a recipe that I am not looking forward to doing at all. I've had versions of this. It's not fun. We're going to be making a cornmeal porridge that would have been served during the Middle Passage. It is going to be a difficult dish for me for many reasons. One, it obviously has a lot of very heavy historical baggage. And the other one is I just really hate porridge. And this is supposed to be watery and just gross. It's at least a simple recipe. First ingredient, cornmeal. So this is a pretty simple dish. First of all, open your cornmeal. You essentially just take the cornmeal, and you take water. And then you mix it. Just gonna keep stirring it until it's that. I'm not looking forward to this at all. Oh, I'm in emotional distress. So the reason why I choose cornmeal over something else, like maybe barley or oats, is it sort of represents more so what would have been around a lot easier at the time. Just because the colonization of the Americas at that point was in full swing. And corn was a lot more readily available, and you could get it for really cheap. It would grow a lot, and then you could just grind it up really easily. I'm most definitely stalling. A lot easier than wheat, which has like a much smaller sort of like kernel. And it's a little bit more labor intensive. I don't want this to go in my mouth. To like separate and gather from the stalk and process. Meanwhile, corn, you just have to sort of pick it and then let it dry and then shuck the seeds off and grind it up. Because that's essentially all corn flour, cornmeal is. It's just corn that's been dried out, and then like I said, 2 ways this can go. You can do the freshwater version, or you can add a little bit of salt to it. Just like everything on a ship has a little bit of salt in it. I am using fresh water. Oh, it's in my mouth. Like, no duh, it's in my mouth, but like, The taste, the texture. It's wet, yet coarse at the same time. I don't want to even try it with the salt. It's worse than cuckoo. because at least cuckoo, which is just like a warm cornmeal porridge, is one, warm, two, thicker. So you at least have like some sort of texture to it. But this is like soupy flour and water, but it doesn't even taste like flour. This has the taste of, imagine you took grass and you shoved it in your mouth. And then you drank water after chewing it for a really long time. This is what that tastes like. The emotional toll of eating this is so high. Oh. It's just so bad. It's so bad. I feel like that's part of it too. Like if this was the only source of food and hydration, because this also doubled as a hydration, like, it's bad. It's really, really bad. This is all you had to eat for weeks on end as you're crammed into absolutely horrible living conditions, just stacked together in really confined, tight spaces. When I was younger, I went to the Ontario Science Centre, and they had a exhibit on ethics and different historical examples of eugenics and dehumanization and all that stuff. And they had one part of the exhibit which was essentially almost like a squeeze box, where you had a really tiny room and it just kind of started taking away more and more room as you were discussing conditions which people lived in or were forced to live through. And part of that was discussion about the Middle Passage and how little room you would get. And the amount of room was so small. I remember, and I was a small kid too, like feeling super claustrophobic. Like, it was like the walls were pressing in on you. It was terrifying. But it was also one of the best examples and exhibits of that sort of claustrophobic feeling you would get. And this, paired with that, would be, I can't even imagine. Like, it's an absolute indignity, travesty. It's a lot. It is a lot. And, like, thank you to the ancestors for, like, surviving what you did, because yikes. Like, food in the Caribbean is a huge part of just cultural understanding and celebration, and it's so deeply ingrained in our culture, and that's part of the reason why I chose this as a topic, because I was curious to see what would come out of that. And this, like, I knew this one would be tough, but yikes. I'm gonna have to scrap this. Like, this is... I can't. That was a nightmare. Let's never do this again.